Yo, all right.
Close there, man. What's going on?
Stephen Howson,
Finger right in my face.
Ronaldo Brown. Welcome to the XG Files. There was only one thing that we could do today, wasn't there?
Yeah, it seems it's topical, isn't it?
It's very topical. It's been a rough week, mate. It's been a rough old week.
I know you've been trying to stay positive, but how 5-0 loss to the Scouts, you can't.
Oh, pretty much as bad as it gets, yeah.
Pretty much as bad as
it gets.
And I actually find it quite. Daniel Taylor mentioned this on the Tier 1 yesterday. Yeah. It's almost worse than the 5 goals conceded. It's how Liverpool were able to see out the rest of the game, almost just taking the piss, almost playing with their food a little bit. That's what grated me the most. I remember watching that last 20 minutes thinking if I was playing, I'd 2-foot someone, because I can only imagine the frustration. That's probably why you saw a couple of players losing the Reds. But it's also just the fact, like, I'm not even seeing a whole lot of expected slander expected to see from a lot of the Liverpool fans on social media. So it comes to the point where they almost know that we're shit.
Yeah, they're pitying us a little bit.
Yeah, and we're being pitied. That's what's.
Listen, it's a members-only chat.
Yeah.
So shout out to all the members. We've obviously had quite a few as I've started. One of the best decisions ever, actually, because I was really reluctant doing lives lately because the chat's horrible. But limited to members only. Generally, the people who are members. Generally, it's not flawless. Generally, the people that are members are quite sensible in their questions and stuff like that. So I thought, first time we've done a live XG, I think. Thought we'd do a live XG. We'll have a conversation about what we think needs to go on. We might even steer off into the woods somewhere, you know how we get. But if you've got any questions, you want to get them in, then just blast them in below and we'll get to them at an appropriate point. Patreon members as well, you guys can also get involved on Discord. There's a channel that's just been opened up. It's right at the bottom on Discord and it's called XG Files Questions, funnily enough. So get your questions in there as well. And probably a little bit later on, we're going to get down into those questions and we'll see what's happening. But right, let's get into it then. The noises coming out of Old Trafford at the moment appear to be he's going nowhere. I think I said to my old man, if he gets to Monday night, midday on Tuesday maybe, and he's not been sacked, he's not getting sacked, is he? They're not going to get him up till Friday and be like, actually, now you're going.
Yeah, I think the lack of hastiness is just coming from, as you've mentioned before, the contract them tied themselves into, and obviously they've given him a free.
Only weeks ago for the rest of the backroom.
Yeah, it's a three-year contract they give him. Obviously that would have been the whole coaching staff included. And if Conte does come in, he's obviously going to want all his own staff. So then it's a total clear out, which, as I've been on record saying, is something I do think should happen. I think there does need to be a change before it gets worse, because I think it'll get worse before it gets better, the way it is now. But it's more, I think, United probably looking at the financial side, which is always how they do it. Because I remember David Moyes, they got sacked with how long left?
He'd done 9 months and they sacked him at the
Didn't he have like a 6-year contract? Or something stupid.
But they sacked him after it was mathematically impossible for us to get Champions League.
Okay.
And that was what
was that close. Yeah.
It wasn't mathematically impossible with Jose, but the writing was on the wall, like, you're not even getting Champions League.
Yeah, but Jose had quite a bit left on his contract as well. And
Jose signed his extension in January and was sacked in December.
Yeah. But there was still like 2 years left. So wasn't there, what was the ballpark figure that he was paid out? Was it nearly approaching 19 million or something?
I'm not sure.
It was something ridiculous. And I think
one of them is like, I've never known a job like it. Like, if you get sacked from a normal job, that's you. Laters, kick your ass up the road. Whereas football managers that get sacked, they get paid for whatever their contract was going to be, which is mental. It's
not just the manager; that's for football players as well.
Yeah, well, I know one of your not going to name him, but we know one of your mates got weighed in big time.
Yeah, exactly. It's contractual, isn't it? Like
wild.
Yeah, which I don't know if it's usually within industries where you're being paid that much, and it's like you're living to a certain means, and if you just cut straight away, you're in a little bit of problems. I feel like you've got to be kind of given at least, because not all the time you get weighed in with the complete 100% of what you would have earned, but you've got to end up coming to an agreement on percentage. Sometimes it's on average it's around, you get 60% of what you would have got. So that tells you how much Mourinho was going to cost, or in terms of salary anyway. But I think that could be the only reason why, like, because as you said, the makeup of or the business model of United, I think we've been kind of lulled into the anomaly that was Sir Alex Ferguson and the longevity that he had. And when a club's been used to that, and we've been used to that, I think it's not in the makeup.
Well, we've had two managers that have lasted over 50 years between the two of them.
Yeah.
Not back to back, obviously, but
yeah,
I prefer that over that constant recycling revolving door model. And people are going to point to Chelsea, right? But I think it's a really superficial understanding of how Chelsea have been successful for the last 20 years. Right, a couple of years ago, I think it was, they had a transfer ban. But outside of that, they've been one of the top 2 or 3 spenders consistently for years and years and years and years.
They've got no shame in that, though. They know that.
No, that's what they're about.
Yeah.
So,
but haven't they also been, as you said, and as they've been the most successful?
They've been
English
the most successful
in the last 20 years. Yeah,
yeah. Since Roman took over, essentially, no one touches them. They're out on their own in terms of success.
So it's worked for them.
It has worked for them. I don't necessarily want that. What do they stand for? I mean, they've had some really great characters from Hiddink and Ancelotti and even Conte, even if I don't necessarily like him, the guy was a character. But, like, wouldn't it be better to have that sustained success? I don't want to love and hate a manager in 18 months. Do you know what I mean? I want to be able to support one man, one team for a sustained period of time. The only manager that's won back-to-back titles for them is Jose Mourinho. He obviously won them being the manager at the same time. When they've and then they brought him back and he won another title. Would he not have won more titles being there? Do you know what I mean? Would Ancelotti have won more titles over the time that they've been there if they hadn't hired and got rid of? I mean, let's pull up the list of Chelsea managers because it's absolutely bonkers.
But it's just on that though. It's just a way of. Sentiment only means so much, though.
But it's not sentiment; it's impatience. Like Carlo Ancelotti is a good manager. He won a double, didn't he, Ancelotti?
Yeah.
And then they sack him the next season. It's like no one's allowed to have an indifferent season. Like, so let's go back. Jesus, even just to.
But wouldn't an argument for Roman in that sense be because of the amount of money he pumps in, the amount that Chelsea spend? He doesn't basically allow for an indifferent season because he's thinking I've put in such an investment.
But sometimes the lack of stability is that causing some of their issues. Like if it costs him so much because he's constant. I mean, they must have spent 100 million on managers on compensation. Like he just wants success, and he thinks the way to get it is just constantly churn over.
But it's not like he thinks the way to get it. He's gotten it though.
Could he? I think they could have had more. So they went from Carlo Ancelotti, 2 years, 61% success win rate, which was 73% win rate is what Gus Hiddink had when he was here or there. 67 is what Jose had. Avram Grant. Here's a really interesting thing, and this is what Joe and we talk sometimes about. So if I said to you, who's a better manager, Avram Grant or Jose? You'd be like fucking Jose Mourinho, mate. Yeah. Right? Well, in the Premier League with the same team, Avram Grant managed, or not actually in the Premier League, in all competitions, Avram Grant managed a 67% win rate, exactly the same as what Jose did. 67% win rate.
But how many? I don't know how comparative is it? Because how many games?
54 games.
54 games from
Avram Grant.
More than
enough.
But how many games did Jose Mourinho?
185.
So he's triple the amount of games.
Yeah, he's triple the amount of games, but the win rate's the same.
The win rate's the same. Okay, triple the amount of games.
Different manager then. But Andre Villas-Boas had 40 games and a 48% win rate.
Isn't that still more impressive from Mourinho that he's got a 67%? He's got the same win rate as a manager with a third of the games. 54
games is still a lot of games.
Yeah,
it's a hell of a lot of games, especially for someone who's considered a shit manager.
I'm saying in its in singularity, if I'm looking at Avram Grant's tenure of 54 games, 67% win rate, that's very, very impressive. But in terms of comparing it to Mourinho, if Mourinho's managed triple the amount of games with the same win percentage, that's obviously a lot more impressive.
Yeah, basically Mourinho did 3 seasons and he did 1 season, so that's basically what you're looking at in terms of that. But the data's comparative, and this is when we say changing manager doesn't necessarily do anything. Proven by that. Just that one instance there. Avram Grant is not, in most people's eyes, comparable to Jose Mourinho. Maybe that's correct. But sacking him did not improve or decrease Chelsea's win rate. He literally kept them at the same revs all the way through. Now, then they brought in Philip Scolari following that, and he was gone by February. He had a slightly worse win rate of 56%. They had Ray Wilkins, RIP, in for a single game, and he won it. Then they brought Gus Hiddink in, and Gus Hiddink, now this is the difference between the right manager and a good manager. Gus Hiddink was an absolute don, and he took it to a 73% win rate. But if you'd have just kept Jose till 2009, what might you have done? Do you know? This is what the point I'm getting at is. And then you bring in Carlo Ancelotti. He's got a 61% win rate. Then you get Villas-Boas, and that was a shit show. Then you get Di Matteo in, and he gets 57%. 2 trophies in that time. One of the worst win percentages at Chelsea. Then you get fucking Rafa Benitez in, who's got 58%. Then you get Jose back. Literally, you didn't find anyone major. I mean, Gus Hiddink aside, you didn't find anyone beat what Jose did. And you still rehired him. So my whole point is, Chelsea found success, but at what cost? Why didn't they stick with that one guy? Because he was the only guy that had ever won back-to-back. And then you look at when they...
It just seems like Roman doesn't care about cost, though. Like
he doesn't care about
cost.
And this is why you can't compare United to Chelsea. Because the Glazers do care about cost. And they're not prepared to put that money in. And they're not prepared to pay 40 million a season for a manager's replacement. And not only that, they're not prepared to pay for the players. United have spent a shitload of money on players since Sir Alex has gone.
Yeah.
Prior to Sir Alex going, though, we was like skinning it. We weren't spending big dough. We was underinvested for decades as the richest club in the world. Or not decades, sorry, for nearly a decade. As the richest club in the world. The last 8 years of Sir Alex Ferguson's reign. Then we started spending it willy-nilly without any sort of plan whatsoever. But when you look at some of those big fees that United have spent in the last 8 years, how many of it's here? Some of the big signings, Schneiderlin, big signing. Memphis, Di Maria, Lukaku. So all this money United have spent doesn't play on the pitch for us. And that's the issue. That is the issue.
So the issue is some of the people that we've bought over the past 8 years. But I don't know. I think what's weighing into the comparison between Chelsea and United, obviously you can't really compare because it's two different types of ownership. You've got Glazers who are very money orientated, and you've got Roman who's very success orientated. I know what people would prefer. Obviously, you'd like a mixture of both. At the moment, I'm in the headspace of watching us not winning the Premier League since Sir Alex Ferguson's left, not won any silverware since 2017. I'm on the fence of, I support Manchester United Football Club. I want success. And if I'm not seeing success on the pitch, then I think I'm within my rights to believe that a change needs to be, especially when I'm seeing things wrong that I'm seeing, especially when now a lot of the excuses over the recent years is the likes of Liverpool, City and Chelsea have had much stronger squads than we have. They might be slightly stronger than our squads now, but our squads are very comparable to them in terms of talent and in terms of cachet, in terms of who we've got playing for us. Even though we've got Ronaldo at the end of he's at the end of his peak now. His peak's long gone, but he's still, even now at the age of 36, 37, he's still a top 3 striker in the world. And then you've got Cavani, who's shown that he's not slowed down that much. And you've got all the talent we brought in Varane, we brought in Sancho, and you're looking at the squad. We should be doing better than we are. We're not 5-0 away from. We shouldn't be 5-0 away from Liverpool. Is my view.
No, we shouldn't.
Exactly, and that's what it comes down to. That's why people are calling for Ole IN, because it seems like he did well to build a squad and to get us ascending from where he was. But when it comes down to now, when he's got to compete with the likes of Tuchel, Guardiola and Pep with squads of a similar ability, it's looking like he's a little bit out of his depth.
I can't necessarily disagree with that, but I'll throw some things to think on.
Yeah.
We did this at training last night. Before we did the analysis, we went through, because most of the lads who play for us are United fans.
Yeah.
And we have...
Was that on purpose?
No, I don't think it's not selected, obviously. Yeah. I wouldn't have a Scouser as my assistant manager, certainly not this week. But we have a lad in there whose brother plays for Liverpool. We have people who do support Liverpool, and the lad whose brother plays for Liverpool, he supports City. He's a pain in the arse. So we was talking about, obviously, the fallout of the weekend. We was talking about the makeup of the squad, and I think there's a little bit of a misunderstanding with people sometimes. I think you just sort of fell into that trap just a little bit. A squad isn't as good as its best talents, comparatively. A squad is as good as its weakest links.
Yeah.
The weakest point in your squad is where your squad is. And people might want to not believe that, or there's always a focus on the upper.
Are you going for the floor ceiling kind of argument?
Yeah.
You think United's squad has a lower floor than the other teams?
Yeah, we've got a very high ceiling. It might be at the top. It might be an equal top, but our bottom is lower of those who regularly start. So you might go, well, Ferran Torres ain't as good as Cavani. No, he's not, right? But is he the worst player that regularly plays? I mean, he's injured at the moment, but is he even regularly play?
He's a good player.
But do you know what I'm saying? In that squad, he's probably looking around going, I'm the worst one here, probably. Or I'm in the conversation, at least, to be the worst player that regularly plays for City. We went through, and I said, United have got a bottom 10 midfield. And everyone went, no.
Remember, because you do the previews. We go through teams week in, week out. We did that last season. And how many times do we look at this another team's midfield and think,
better have.
Regular.
Very regular. Yeah. So when we went through every team's midfield. So I said, I'm not even going to attempt it with the top. I mean, on paper you go, well, Jordan Henderson's not all that. But he's mistake-free, generally.
Yeah.
He's pretty solid.
Solid player, yeah.
But then when you go, Fabinho, he's world-class. Keita, very, very good. Who else in their midfield? Milner, very experienced. There's another absolute... Thiago. Yeah, there's another world-class player in there, Thiago. So you go, is Liverpool midfield better than ours? Yeah, it is. Is City's? I'm not even getting into it. Yes, it is. Is Chelsea's? Chelsea's far and away better than ours.
I think Chelsea arguably have the best midfield.
Chelsea's is unreal.
In terms of the balance that they have.
And that's the important thing.
Yeah.
So then you go, okay, well, let's start going down. Well, who's in Spurs midfield? Ndombele and Højbjerg. Is that better than Fred McTominay? Yes. Right? Okay. What about Wolves? Martinho and Neves. Is that better than United? Yes. What about Leicester? Is Ndidi and Tielemans better than... Yes. Okay, shit. What about Everton? Doucouré and Allen? Yes. Like, you go, shit. Villa, when you start going all the way down, I mean, what's Villa? McGinn and...
Douglas Luiz. Yeah.
There's a conversation to be had.
Yeah.
So you go, shit. Actually, this midfield, fucking awful in the grand scheme of things. Now, everyone wants every answer to be in a box and neat and go... And people want every person to do that as well. Like, I've had it. Oh, don't you talk about football? What are you doing talking about MMA? Well, I fucking like both, so shut up. Like, we're allowed. People want, this is the answer. And they're going, Ole is the answer. That's it, and it fixes it. Well, it doesn't. You can't just bring in a new manager and expect that now Fred and McTominay are better than Ndidi and Tielemans. That's not how it works. You've got to improve the squad. Now, Ole's improved. I mean, I saw a comment the other day, which was like, the midfield was the priority, and we signed all the wrong players. It wasn't. The right wing was the priority. And then you could argue centre-half was.
I know that we're talking about
midfield became the priority.
I know we're talking about midfields and comparing floors or whatever. But my issue is a lot of the issues that I've seen this season in terms of why United are losing and why we look so poor go far beyond just the fact that we don't have a good midfield as a lot of the teams you've just mentioned.
That's what I was getting at.
There's a lot more issues than that.
It isn't just that. The fact that you got Fred and McTominay doesn't mean Maguire gets beat at the front post. Doesn't mean Shaw doesn't stop the cross. They can sometimes be linked in, maybe because the midfield didn't stop it, we conceded more chances than we should have, and those things can be relative.
It's how we've noticed, for a lot of people have noticed for a while now, Scholes touched on it, in terms of the distances between midfield and attack with Fernandes and how high he plays, and the fact that Fred and McTominay are average at best anyway as a duo, and that's probably being kind. But so if they're average,
do you know what? They're not even average. I think if we've just gone through, I think 12 teams we got through.
No, but exactly, probably below average at best. But
it might be the 13th worst pairing in midfield.
Exactly, that's compounded.
And some teams play a 3, so it's not really comparative.
Yeah, exactly. That's compounded by the fact that they're left isolated a lot. So if they're not good enough anyway, and then they're not helped tactically by where players are positioned, then that's not great either, because it's coming across like, obviously midfield is a problem. We know that CDM, but we knew that coming into the season, and then we've seen over the last few weeks that we've also got issues defensively. We look disjointed. We don't look well drilled. Don't look well coached, and that goes beyond the midfield anyway. When you're saying a new manager won't exactly make Fred and McTominay better, obviously they probably wouldn't. It's likely that they wouldn't. But what a new manager that's probably a little bit more tactically nuanced could do is find a way to kind of shield them a little bit, where they're not left isolated every game. You can get an arm around Fernandes and say, you need to play there, you need to play a little bit deeper, kind of formulate the team a little bit better, where you can kind of, you're talking about weaknesses and flaws, where you can kind of accommodate for the fact that they haven't got the ability that other teams have.
I don't disagree on that. I don't necessarily disagree that you could look at, I mean, I literally did it 2 weeks ago. I looked at 4 formations that might actually work better for what United need to do. And I think something like a diamond would be, would you allow Bruno to stay high? It would allow you to accommodate Fred and ask him to only pass it 5 yard and keep it very, very simple. McTominay's passing wouldn't be overlooked. You could bring Pogba in alongside him. You've still got that long-range creative effort or ability. And I think a diamond would be very suited to it. It would make you stronger and more stable through the centre. It would allow more teams to go out wide. And I think Varane and Maguire generally are quite good when dealing with aerial crosses. We've shown we're not very good dealing with crosses on the floor the other day. So I don't necessarily think that you couldn't change the manager and therefore the formation. I think there's enough flexibility in the squad that would accommodate that. But I don't necessarily think that this is my whole point on everything is, I don't think just changing the manager solves the way people think it solves. I think there's a lot more going on. And I did a video yesterday where we looked at some of the other reasons of why things may or may not be working. And there's, obviously, a lot of people just completely miss the fucking point as usual. I said, are the analysis team not able to quantify it? And a lot of the replies are, well, anyone can see what the issues are. Okay, but that's not missing the point, is it? If the analysis isn't giving the data to the coaches, that's one issue. If the coaches are getting the data but not able to deliver it to the players, well, that's an issue. If the players are getting the data and they're getting the delivery and they're getting the information from the coaches, but they're not able to execute, that's a whole different issue. And all I was trying to do is explain how there's multiple stops on the way from A to B. There's petrol stations and garages and refuels and all that lot on the way from A to B. And people just want to simplify it all down to just sack the manager. But it's been proven time and time and time and time again, just changing the manager is not effective.
But do you know what it is? We had a little bit of a monologue to begin with, looking at Chelsea and obviously looking in retrospect at something what's happened recently. Is they had Lampard in, right? And they brought Tuchel in. Mm-hmm. And there was an absolute complete transformation that we're seeing today with similar players.
Agreed. However, you can't compare Lampard and Ole. People want to because they're a similar age and they both played for their club. But Ole's got far more managerial experience and success, regardless of what level you credit it to be. Not getting promoted with Derby is not the same as winning a league with a team that never won it before.
I'm not really comparing him to Lampard per se. I'm more comparing situations, and I'm more comparing who would come in. You've got a Tuchel that comes in, has a lot more cachet and tactical knowledge, and kind of been around the block a little bit more in terms of his managerial prestige than Lampard. And it's the same if Conte comes in. And I'm not comparing Ole and Lampard. I'm more comparing the impact it would have of bringing a manager that has more cachet than the one that you currently have into a team.
One, who's that manager? Is a big issue, I think. Who is that manager? Two, we obviously looked at the data last season. Chelsea were doing a bit like what Brentford and Brighton were doing, which is they were winning the games on XG but not converting. So everybody in the world can say, if they could just start scoring goals, they're going to win games. What Tuchel did, which you got to give him some serious clout for, is he went, okay, we're creating enough chances to win games. I wonder if I can start nicking games if we make us better at the back. And he came in and he went unbelievably technical and very, very tight defensively. And then they started to win those games 1-0 where they might have lost 2-1 in the past or drawn it. And he addressed the XG balance by, rather than improving finishing, he clearly went, I'll get a striker in the summer who can do that. For now, I'm not going to be able to do anything except alter it this way. And he altered it to make them more defensively solid. He won a cup competition, which, again, Roberto Di Matteo managed to do that. You can win cup competitions. It's not as much of a guarantee as the league. The league is a better measurement of what you're about. You can prioritise a cup competition. You can get a bit fortunate in a cup competition. And
we haven't, no, in the past few years.
No, we've not. But then, you also had, in the final, you had Pep overthinking it and fucking basically throwing it. He wanted to win it like a genius rather than... You could have just sent that Manchester City team and go, hey, do you know what? Do you know what you've done all year? Do a bit of that and let's bring that trophy home. And they'd have won it. But he didn't. He wanted to look like a genius. Fucked it. Tuchel became European champion on the back of that.
I wouldn't say... Obviously, there's a bit of Pep overthinking things a little bit. Wasn't it the fact
Massively.
It wasn't the fact that he struggled against Chelsea in season, or... I think he had a little bit of that in the back of his head, especially one-off games. But I'd like to get to a Champions League final, though. But it's like, what it comes down to, Steve, if I'm going to ask you this question is, you're saying, I know you're anti-Conte, but the fact of the matter is, if you're talking about the prestige one carries and their ability to kind of formulate a team and be tactically sound, Conte is better than Ole.
Yeah, I can give you that.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because this is a man.
I know, very, very, very strict style that he follows.
Yeah, because this is a man that, with his first job, I think it was in Juve in 2011, he won the title in his first year. And that was the first time Juventus won the title since 2003 when he came in. So success is usually followed where he's went.
But when you look into what had happened with that, with Juventus, so Juventus had, I'll get it up because there was, obviously they'd been relegated for their, they got relegated in 2007, I think it was, or it was around that time, might have been 2006. Basically, they got relegated and they had their title stripped off them from match fixing. So they were rebuilding their squad. Prior to that, they'd won a handful of Scudettos, I think they call it, don't they, in Italy. They then obviously went and won 9 on the bounce. And this is my whole point. Who was the manager for them 9?
I don't know. I'm just more speaking about Conte winning the title for him in their first year.
Allegri. Who else was it? Managers.
Because who else did Conte manage? He managed Italy and so, didn't he?
Managed Italy, managed Chelsea.
Yeah, I think he.
So some people say, well, he started the winning succession of Juventus and then he ended it with Inter Milan. So there's more factors at play. Juventus had just come back into the league and just started to rebuild after their scandal. So they was back in the league, getting back towards the top. Yes, he won in the league, and I'll never discredit anyone that's managed to win a league.
Especially the first one in 8 years that they've won.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a situation where they were already winning 9 on the bounce.
But then, what happens? He goes, more managers come in, they maintain that winning success. So was it him, or was it Juventus are the best team in that league?
You could also say that. You could say, was it him that helped him to? Was it him, or was it just the fact that they're the best team in the league at that time? But you could also say, was it him that turned the corner for him to go from not winning 8 years?
But I'm not necessarily ruling one or the other out. I'm just asking questions.
Because I'm just looking at his career in its entirety, and obviously he did actually go on to manage Italy, and then he managed Italy and took them on an unbeaten run in terms of qualifying for the Euros.
Yeah, but everyone does that.
Yeah.
Everyone does that. England fucking win 9 out of 10 and draw the other.
Yeah. I think they got knocked out in the Euros in the round of 16s by Germany. And then I think he's gone on to obviously had success at Inter Milan. He's left because of their financial issues. So what I'm just looking at is his career in like a bit of a microcosm, looking at it thinking, is a pretty well-renowned, successful manager wherever he's gone. And if you're comparing, if you're going to give Ole credit for winning an award, then what I was going to say Norwegian League with Molde, I think you can give Conte his dues for what he's done with the likes of
I'll
Inter
never
Milan,
discredit anyone
Juventus,
for winning the league, but I think there's factors in it. Like if you got France, I mean, this is the whole argument with Poch. Poch probably should have won a league with Paris and didn't, bottled it. Hilarious. If you go to somewhere where you traditionally see them win the league year in, year out, is that as hard as when you go to a club that's never won a league and you deliver them their first ever league title? No. Is it fuck? That's way more impressive. It's like when Sir Alex Ferguson delivered United's first title after 26 years. Impressive. You can't say he had the remnants of Busby's team in there because he fucking didn't.
So how comes getting Juve's first title in 8 years is it impressive then?
I'm not saying it's not impressive. I'm saying I think it's less impressive than people are giving it the credit for because they was already Juventus was always going back to the top in Italy because at the time you had AC Milan being run like United are at the moment, and I think they had a big fine attached to them at the time. Inter Milan were skint. They was going through a serious fucking downturn. Roma had traditionally never done anything. Lazio never done anything. So you had Italy in complete disarray. Attendances have gone down to an average of like 15,000 or something in Italy at the time. Italian football was fucked. Juventus were the team with a bit of money that managed to rise above everyone. And that's why they won 9 on the bounce. Some of that might have been through some of the coaching and discipline and whatever that Conte put into them, undoubtedly, right? You can always attribute some of that to it. But was it 100% just because of Conte? Was it fuck? Evidenced by the fact that Allegri managed to do the same thing. And then winning it with Inter Milan, yeah, great. He won their first title again in, was it 10 years? Something along those lines, since Jose.
Yeah.
A good achievement. But again, he managed to outspend everyone. And people are trying to put those sort of brackets over what could happen in the Premier League. The issue you've got in the Premier League, probably 3 of the best 4 teams in the world play in England. As I was saying on the podcast on Monday, you might as well just have a fucking absolute laugh. Get Cantona involved, having fucking booting other managers. Because to get ahead of them, I don't think there's any desire from the Glazers to get ahead of them. I don't think there's any desire from the Glazers to keep up with them.
I don't know though, because look at the amount of money in the squad that we've got now. So it's like, I know we're looking at what,
but they sanctioned big
Conte spending over man, spending more than anyone else. It's not like United have lacked in spending in the past couple of years. It's just not turned into success. Then you got to think why, because there's enough money and quality within the team. And I know we're looking at Liverpool, and then we talk and City, and we're looking at Chelsea. And
it's intelligently spent.
I know, but if you're looking at flaws like we've mentioned,
and even Pep managed to sign a goalkeeper, wasn't good enough. Signed another fucking goalkeeper. How many times have United had players that are obviously not good enough, but you got to fucking roll with them because you ain't getting a replacement?
No, but basically the point you're making though is that Ole isn't good enough to overcome Fred and McTominay in midfield, which is going to be an indictment on him.
Maybe,
because that's basically.
But I know that they wanted midfielders, and he didn't get them.
Because there's a lot of, when it comes to managing, obviously you talked about, you've read books on it in terms of how much there's a lot of variables in football and the impact that a manager actually has on winning success.
The best way I could explain
it might be minimal, but it's still a definite impact. And I'm thinking, if I can see other managers with less quality in their squads kind of overperforming, then if I'm looking at teams, for example, United with a quality of squad where they should be performing better than the Arsenal, they're underperforming, then that does have to fall back on a manager, because obviously the players go out there and play, but then that is also another indictment on a manager, because sometimes the way players are playing and the way they're forming as a team comes down to whether the players actually believe in the manager or not. And there seems to be a bit of a disconnect now between, I don't care about Pogba's statement or whatever, between how the players are kind of seeing things. I don't think that it's almost like, I think Ronaldo did cause a little bit of an issue because he comes in and he's basically bigger than Ole.
And I think Pogba might be as well.
So, and he's a winner. Ronaldo's a winner. So if you're not winning, you ain't happy. And if he's not happy, he's going to make it known. And what does that fall back on? It doesn't fall back on Ole again. But I'm not going to make that and use that as an excuse for him, because I know it's not always comparative or equal if you're looking at the likes of Brighton and you're looking at the likes of Brentford and how they seem to be performing better than their squad suggests. And then you're looking at the likes of Potter, I forgot the name of the Brentford manager. They'll get a lot of credit for that, but obviously to sustain that and have a little bit of longevity is how you kind of build your cachet. But when you've got a squad that is underperforming and then you actually see the things that we've seen on the pitch, especially the first half at Ireland, it sticks with me because I'm looking at players with shit body language, players look like they're giving up, players that look like they don't have any belief. And then obviously Ole will get credit for how they come out in the second half. It must have been an inspired team talk. It could have just been a bit of pride from the players as well.
He doesn't know. Yeah. I see so many people going, oh, the players have just said they're doing what they want, which I can't believe.
Yeah, I know. We just can't always have it both ways. But then again, I'm looking at that game the same way Scholes did. We knew they had quite a lot of players injured. It was a team that we should have beaten anyway. We shouldn't have given a 2-0 head start to start playing. But basically, from putting it into summary, what it comes down to is right now, there's glaring issues and glaring holes when we're watching this United team that go beyond just how the players are performing and goes beyond how the team is set up. And this has been this way. It's not even like it's been 2 or 3 games. There's not been time to fix it. It's been all season, even in the games that we've won.
What's confusing is how this hasn't been the case last season. There was a little shadow of this, but the performances were miles better last season. And the players' individual performances were better last season. And that's where I come unstuck, where I don't know the answer, is, clearly, Ollie's not going, hey, Harry, everything that you've learned since being 7 years old about being a centre-half, how about we forget that and you just fucking spin around and look at the sky? Because he's clearly not saying that to him, innit? So how the fuck is Maguire... I mean, in the last 3 games, Maguire has been as bad a centre-half as I've seen. And prior to that, I thought he got a lot of real unfair stick. Towards the bulk of last season, he was really good. And there was a lot of excitement of, Varane playing alongside Maguire is going to be fucking deadly. And then this season, for whatever reason, Shaw's reverted back a 12-month or more. Maguire's reverted back 22 years or more. Like, people have just completely fell off, and what's that?
I kind of agree with some of this stuff that most of it I've disagreed with what Gary Neville's been saying, because I think he's speaking a lot more out of heart and sentiment than he is being neutral or being subjective. But I'm looking at a lot of the players and a lot of the personalities, and as much as Ollie's biggest strength is probably man management, I think that's the issue with him is his man management's a lot better than his tactics and his coaching. That seems to be evident. But it looks like he's even starting to struggle a bit with the man management because of the personalities that he's got in the squad now. And
you've got an issue here is, how do you drop Ronaldo? Because some games, Ronaldo isn't the answer.
I know that, but when we're talking about players' performances, obviously that's going to be on them to an extent. But are these players comfortable enough to play like that, to drop 5 out of 10, drop 6 out of 10, drop 4 out of 10, knowing that they're not going to get dropped, knowing that they're not going to get a rocket up their arse from Ole, knowing that their place really isn't in jeopardy? That is also my problem. Because I'm thinking, being someone that's played football, obviously not at that level, I think there's a little bit of a vibe that you go out on the pitch with knowing who's in your dugout. And I think a lot of the players showed signs of giving up on him already. And then they're going out onto the pitch with this lackadaisical kind of vibe with them where we just play how we want to. It seems like everyone's doing their own individual thing. I press on my own. He won't press behind me. He won't support. I'll shoot when I shoot cross.
Those things don't compute to me. Because I see my fucking Saturday League team follow my instructions seemingly better than Manchester United do, which does not add up in the slightest.
Like, obviously, it's a big difference in personalities. You don't have basically celebrities playing for you.
No, we don't.
Do you know what I mean?
But them lads are paying me to play for us. It's not even the other way around. None of them are paid. I can't say, you're not going to get your match fee this week because I'm not playing you. Everyone's paying subs. The lads on the bench are paying subs. The lads are paying subs. That's a weird power dynamic for a manager to be in. So there should be way more adherence in the professional game, and there is obviously by and large.
There is by and large, but that's what's worrying, because by and large, do you think the players that are playing under Pep, Klopp, and Tuchel probably adhere to every single tactical word that they say and buy in as a team?
No. I think overall they do, but it's certainly not 100% buy-in. There's obviously still individual moments where a player's own mind is going to come out.
I've seen obviously Mane has had a few drops when it comes to Klopp,
seems to be increasing
when he gets dropped or whatever. But then again, look at the kind of the status that Mane has within the game and how he's performed over the years, and Klopp's not afraid to drop him, and it usually works, because when he obviously got Jota, probably not the player that Mane is, but you got to be strong enough to make those decisions. Obviously, Ole did make that decision against Everton to Ronaldo, and you saw the backlash of that, especially we played awful as well. But I think you have to build yourself up to a level of success where you're able to have the kind of ability to make those decisions, because you've got the kind of, you got the resume behind you, you got the power behind you.
Surely the fact that you're manager of Manchester United means you've got that power. Or maybe it is the dynamic of having Ronaldo. He is bigger than you. If Ronaldo stamps his feet, if Ronaldo stamped his feet and said, get rid of him, I want Zidane, right? The board might listen to that over, I'm the manager of Manchester United, you do what you're fucking told. And the problem is that could lead to an unravelling of everything else. So what do you do if you're Ole? Do you be firm with him? Obviously, if you're winning, it doesn't fucking matter. There's not really any conflicts in there. And clearly, everyone at the club wants us to win. There's no one out here secretly hoping that we lose. Everyone wants us to win. Everyone wants us to be successful.
Yeah.
So this is where Ole's got to do that. Because on the Bruno thing as well, I think his position is ridiculous as a midfielder. But if you notice, he kind of does Ronaldo's pressing for him. But again, is that something that's an issue? Because I see Ronaldo sort of drift back into the 10 while Bruno presses ahead of him. But not every player needs to press like fucking a juiced up Carlos Tevez.
They don't. That's what I mean. Ronaldo's never pressed, so I don't understand this kind of pressing in that.
But you don't need to ask him to press either. You can say, hey, do me a favour and just stay tight to one of the centre-halves. You've took him out of the game then. If they're passing it around the back, they're not passing it to the guy you're standing next to.
But my issue is we're seeing these things as not manager of United. Why isn't Ole seeing them? Or if he's seeing them, why is he not implementing?
That's why I said, where does this break? Are the analysts seeing it? And again, if they're not seeing it, Ole is seeing it, surely. I fucking hope. If they're seeing it and passing it to the coaches, are the coaches implementing it correctly? Are they not able to implement it correctly? Do they ignore it? Do they think there's something else that they're trying to achieve? And if all of them are lining up and then it's going to the players, are they not listening? Do they think they know better? Like, where is it?
That's what I'm saying.
It might be everything.
Because there seems to be a little bit of a mess, and it's getting worrying because a lot of managing, it comes to the kind of presence you emit as well. And when I'm seeing players, when I'm watching United, look like they don't really know what they're doing, they're all doing something individually different, and they're looking a bit like they're playing just on instinct or whatever, and not quite sure whether to go left or go right, where to turn, what to do. You then got to look at the manager, and are they getting that kind of vibe emitted from Ole, where when Ole's on the back foot and we're struggling for performances, he can't really seem to find the right recipe. Players are going to pick up on that because they're there with him every day. They're in the dressing room. They're going to pick up on it thinking, does this guy really know what he's doing or know where we need to go? And then you take that onto the pitch. And that's a lot of what I'm seeing, and that's what's worrying me, because every single team that we seem to be playing against this season, bottom line, looks better coached than we do. That's the problem.
Right, listen, before we get any further, do you know what's spookier than seeing a black cat at Halloween? And that's shaving your balls of anything other than Manscaped. When it comes to below-the-waist grooming, there is no need to carve your pumpkins this Halloween, because Manscaped's here to upgrade your experience. Go from a bite-sized candy bar or even a king-size candy bar and join the 2 million men worldwide by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with the code XG20. Have you ever tried to trim your balls and it's turned into a Freddy Krueger film? Well, luckily, Manscaped is here to save the day and ensure that you're smelling fresh with a new refined body wash. Fellas, the ladies love that new signature scent and will scare away all of those vampires. If it's a full moon out there and a werewolf in your pants is howling, then it's time to tackle the problem with the Lawnmower 4.0. And the finely tuned pube products feature a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 is the greatest ball trimmer on the planet, and it's waterproof too, so you can get it in the shower and you can get amongst your meat and two veg if you need to there. Listen, we're all blokes. We know we're all going to leave our Christmas shopping and our gifts to, I don't know, lunchtime on Christmas Eve. That's usually the move. Save yourself the hassle. Go to manscaped.com now and get a ball trimmer for an uncle, a brother, a cousin, your dad, your granddad, whoever you need to get one for. Use the code XG20, 20% off and free shipping. Link for that is in the description, so go knock yourself out. Right, should we do some questions? We've got quite a few.
Yep.
Charlie Forster has said, the progression of the team is clear since Ole's come in, but it's not hard to think that his management capabilities have reached its height. Beginning to look like that.
That's what I said, ceiling. It's a ceiling thing. Like, obviously, there's a lot of some people believe in the sentiment, and you said you want a stability in manager. You don't like to managers go you back, whatever. But right now, he doesn't seem to have the answers, and that's the thing.
Do you know the parallels between him and Sir Alex's reign? So Sir Alex came second. He took us to 11th the next season. Brought Mark Hughes back, legendary striker, being brought back after coming through as a youngster. And came 11th. He doesn't last in today's game doing that. And everyone will be like, stop comparing Ole to Sir Alex Ferguson. Why? If the greatest of all time had struggles where he just didn't look like he had a fucking pot of glue was going on, why can you not accept that other people are going to have similar trials and maybe come out of them better? They might not come out of it and end up winning a treble down the line, but why can you not accept that other people could come through the similar sort of tribulations?
What was Fergie's squad when he finished 11th?
Fucking unreal. Brian Robson, best midfielder in the world. Norman Whiteside, Paul McGrath, best centre-half in the league. He'd got Mark Hughes back from, he was either at Bayern or Barcelona at the time. He'd spent dough. Like, the parallels are freaky. He spent a record fee for a defender on Gary Pallister. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, the parallels are eerie.
I will not accept any sort of partial slander to Sir Alex Ferguson.
There's no slander here. How can the owners be worried about Conte's playing style? When was the last time they've been to a game? I don't think they are worried about play style. And have I seen Phil Neville's comments? I've not seen Phil Neville's comments. What are they?
Well, I've not seen them, but play style identity in that at the moment is being too easy to play against and losing games. So if there's a playing style that you might not find amazing, but we're actually getting results, depends what you prefer in it. Do you value how the team's looking in terms of style, or do you value the ability to go and win trophies and silverware? It depends where you lie on that spectrum.
Abhinav said,
I know what I want anyway.
Do you think someone should stay back to keep the good work done behind the scenes, like taking care of the players? And do you agree that the good work was done behind the scenes? I'm assuming that means if he goes. I think there has been improvements of things behind the scenes, maybe not to the extent that we all hope. Again, I do a lot of reading and stuff, and when you find out that City have got an entire department that looks after new signings, you've got a big map up in there. Here's where you should live in the city. Here's the schools. Here's a new mobile phone with an English SIM card. All those sorts of things. Liverpool apparently are very good at this as well, in settling players in. No other industry in the world would you find like someone spends £100 million to bring a footballer or an employee over from another country and just leaves them to it. Now, I know that United have done some stuff like this because I believe Cavani, as he moved in, had a delivery from a Uruguayan butcher that United had organised. So he had a load of local, or not, I guess local for him, a load of his meats from when he was back home to make him feel comfortable, and that United are trying to do more of this sort of stuff, which is a good thing. You can't risk a player just not being happy because he's not settled or he's living in a weird area or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Ole should be a director of football. It's just fucking insane. Like, director of football is a fancy agent that works for a club. As a manager, I should appreciate Benitez more. He broke up the duopoly in La Liga, winning the title twice with Valencia, won the Champions League and Europa League to elite CV. Yeah, drew his way to it. Again, there's a bit of fortune. in it. Otherwise, why didn't he replicate it? Why did he have an identical record to Steve Bruce at Newcastle? Yes, he won a Champions League. He won a Europa League. Yeah, honestly, who gives a fuck? He did well in La Liga with Valencia. Did you see the team he won it with Valencia? David Silva, Juan Mata, David Villa. It's a fucking baller team. Now, there's some credit goes to him for assembling that team, of course. But at the time, Barcelona were going for a right fucking mad period. I think it was pre-Rijkaard. And Real Madrid was in one of those fucking crazy periods as well, where they're just not at it. I think Deportivo...
Still got to be good enough to capitalise on it.
Yeah, you do, yeah. And again, I won't ever discredit someone for winning the league, but you got to look at what the circumstances of those things are sometimes. It's like when Conte won the league with Chelsea, everyone was fucked up.
You know what's going to be...
Same with Leicester managed to win.
You know what's the irony, though? In terms of Valencia under Benitez breaking up that duopoly, and you mentioning...
It wasn't actually that much of a duopoly.
You mentioning that period that Barcelona in a funny period before Rijkaard, Real Madrid had one of their issues, and then you mentioning Deportivo. If you're using United finishing second last year to City as a positive on Solskjaer's resume, you can also look at Chelsea being in the shit last year. No fans.
Yeah, you can.
And you can look at the fact that Liverpool were in the shit and had a lot of injuries.
So at the time, wasn't necessarily a duopoly. Deportivo won it in 2000, Madrid 2001, then Valencia won it with Deportivo coming second. And then Real Madrid won it with Sociedad coming second and Deportivo coming third. Mallorca came third behind Deportivo and Real Madrid in 2000. This wasn't a Barcelona-Real Madrid duopoly at the time. I mean... 1998, it was Barcelona, Athletic Bilbao and Sociedad. 99 was Barcelona, Real Madrid, Mallorca. Like, it was hardly the duopoly that it certainly has been for the last. He still
won the league.
Years.
He still won the league. I wouldn't criticize a manager for winning a league because it's a large sample size. It's 38 games. You got to be the best team in the league to win it quite often.
It is, but I think what a lot of this is too many people that are too fucking young to actually remember. I remember Deportivo was sick. I remember fucking.
But it is a good point though because. Maybe this season's more of an...
All right, shut up. We've got a million questions to get through. We need to wrap it up. I'm on fucking air in 5 minutes. Romano, do you think United should play counter-attacking football like he did in the beginning until we find the balance in the team by getting a proper DM? I think that a lot of the basis of what we did well was Matic, Herrera, Pogba. I don't think we've got the team to replicate those three things now. Abhinav, do you agree with reports... Do you think the reports, according to the Athletic, of players questioning Ole and not convinced by him and not willing to work for him? I've spoken to players and everyone seems pretty chuffed with everything. It's interesting, some things have come out this week, which is the fucking opposite of what I've heard directly from players. So I don't know what to believe on that. Is it spin? Especially when it comes from people.
Could be spin or could be people not being 100% truthful. Yeah. Or that could just be prior to losing 5-0 at home to
Liverpool. People could fucking lie to me, but I wouldn't have thought there was any need for doing that. At the moment, style of football isn't great. I'd rather Conte over Simeone. What? Simeone? People want to talk about style of play and want Simeone.
Simeone had a pretty decent game plan against... He lost the game against Liverpool. He had a really good game plan against him, though.
I mean, this is the thing. Do you want success or do you want nice football? Because people did their fucking nutting against...
You obviously want a combination, but I think he won success at the end of the day, especially where United are right now.
Conte took Chelsea from 10th to 1st. But weren't they champions like fucking 12 months prior to that? Also did it a season where Pep and Klopp were getting used to the league and build their team. Can't see Ole staying, says Abhinav. The players, professional players for United, they need to be handled like kids. I will fire them. Bruno, Fred and Mason don't or follow the trigger. The problem is Glazers showed their hand by firing managers before, so they need to show some balls and control the club, but that means they can't go against mass hysteria. They've sacked people when they've not got Champions League football, though. So, I think the metrics are... I wouldn't have been surprised to see him go this week, but they've kind of shown their hand in terms of, it's Champions League failure is what they pull the trigger on, generally. In the Discord group, we've got a lot more going around with Conte. What do I think Zidane would be able to offer us instead? Management of Ronaldo, probably alone over Conte. Very big name. That's it, really. Are pineapples technically omnivores because they digest you as you eat them? Yes. Do I get carried by individual brilliance at Paddock FC?
You know what's weird, though? The team's more successful now. I swear. with probably a little bit more top-end talent last year.
There's a lot more top-end talent last year. I had like a conference-level forward 3 last year.
Yeah.
You've been outscored in 7 games, lad. Don't worry about it. Given how the team feels slightly off balance and the void of quality we had last season and the allegations that always loom after him, is signing Ronaldo shaping up to be a bit of a mistake? I think it's too early to say. If Ronaldo was a panda and Steve was a donkey, would Paddock's tactics be any different? Now that's slander. Our tactics are sick. Should Ole be given more time as a manager since he still doesn't have a complete team that he wants and the players have hardly played together that much? I think what it's getting down to is he's probably got
couple games.
3 games. Because if he wins in the Champions League, that's us almost qualified. We're on 9 points then.
I think the Atalanta win might have put him a game or 2 in the bank, which it
Till the next Atalanta game.
Which it looks on in results, but performance-wise, it wasn't good enough again, really. It's like...
Thoughts on Pogba calling out the media on their bullshit for once. Very good. However, how many times have they said he wants to leave and he said fuck all? So that's the problem. When you comment on a story, you then have to comment on every story. You can never comment on any of them. Thoughts on Kyrie Irving's current holdout? Any ideas on what that is?
He's a basketballer for the New York Nets, one of the best. You would have heard of Kyrie Irving. He said he's not allowed to play because he's refusing to take the vaccine.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. His choice, isn't it? That's how I see it.
Am I impressed with the way the club hasn't reacted and sacked him and gone straight to Conte, as reporters are saying? We haven't, because we weren't happy with the options available. I think when we appointed Jose, I said we need to have a succession plan in place because Jose's the clock's ticking now on Jose. He will not be here a decade. It's only a matter of when, not if, right? So we should have had a succession plan in place then, at the latest. The fact that we've got to whatever stage we've got with Ole. If I was director of football at a top club, which I don't know who's fucked up to make that happen, but let's just pretend. One of the things I would do is I would obviously want to have, let's say you're my manager, and I'm going to have a close relationship with you, I hope. We've got a good working relationship, but you need to understand, I'm preparing for the day that you're no longer the manager. I'm going to be talking to Simeone, Zidane, Conte, Ten Hag. I'm going to talk to all of those guys, and I'm going to have a short list. And I'm going to interview these guys. I'm going to keep these plates spinning, and I'm going to keep them aware of our interest in case it goes tits up with you. Because the day it goes tits up with you want me manager forever. I think we both can agree on that. But I need to have my interviews lined up. And the day you have one of those games, if I go, do you know what? There was a freak result. We're going to get over this. Don't worry about it. Or, no, we might have to have an honest conversation and go, if you don't fucking turn this around against Spurs, and if you lose next week, that's you fucking game over, my mate. If that's the case, I'll get on a blow at Ten Hag and say, maybe start looking at flats in Manchester. Because if he loses against Atalanta, he's gone. And then if you do lose against Atalanta, he's already been briefed. You was my number 1 pick. In you fucking come. So he knows. He's probably had a couple of weeks to think about it. Maybe he goes and speaks to Ajax and be like, listen, United are in for me. If Ole goes in the next couple of weeks, then I'm going to accept the job. They can then start their replacement. You know what I mean? There's a lot of moving parts in these things. And I think that sort of preparation is required. Have I ever had an apple and Mars bar sandwich? No. Do I think he changes the system for Spurs or sticks with 4-2-3-1? He might go 3 at the back. But I don't know. Are you better at defending than Luke Shaw? No, he's not.
What, me?
Yeah.
I'm a great 1v1 defender.
Yeah, but you don't go in our half.
No, if I've got a defender 1v1, I back myself. You know why? Because I'm a winger. I feel like I have a pretty good idea. Wingers are quite often good at defending 1v1. Yeah,
because you've got good agility and lateral movement.
And you kind of know, you can kind of tell what someone's trying to do against you, being a winger yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Cheers for tuning in. Please go and check out Manscaped. The link is in the description. Use the code XG20 if you want to go and get someone a nice little present. Free shipping, 20% off if you do. Thanks for tuning in. I'm probably doing another live tomorrow on an IMO. Maybe we'll have a look at some managerial options. I don't know yet. But cheers for tuning in. See you in the next one. Laters.